Joining us now from Rome for an exclusive conversation is Ignazio Visco. He's a governor of the Bank of Italy and, of course, an ECB Governing Council member. So, Governor, thank you, as always, for giving Bloomberg a little bit of your time. Mr. Philip Lane of the ECB is coming out saying that they stand ready to ensure that spreads don't intercept transmission. What does that actually mean in terms of policy?
Well, it means basically that the policy will be adjusted to the circumstances, so across time and across jurisdictions, to ensure the proper transmission of the monetary policy decisions that we have taken. These are important decisions. Perhaps they have been a little bit underestimated by the markets so far, but I'm sure they will be completely understood as they will be put in place now in operation. Now, obviously, the first response to this crisis, which is extremely severe, is the response of governments. The governments have all of the means to support the incomes, the health system, the brave women and men that are engaged in the fight against the virus now, and to whom goes our appreciation, our gratitude. Monetary policy, however, has its own responsibility, and the responsibility is to intervene with the maximum possible energy to alleviate the cost of the crisis, and especially to ensure that there is no financial market fragmentation that may make the response less prompt and more difficult. This is exactly what was the main preoccupation we had yesterday in this package. It's a package. It has clearly emphasized the need to provide the liquidity as much and as convenient as possible to banks so that it can be transferred to firms and workers at the end, and at the same time to intervene in purchasing assets, increasing substantially our program, which covers both private and public bonds. And these public bonds obviously are to be purchased when and as needed and as much as needed.
But, Governor, how much more can the ECB do and how quickly? So if the market sell-off continues in BTPs, does the 120 billion actually give you the flexibility to front-load BTP purchases?
Well, first of all, it has to be clear that this has not been the final word. Actually, we are data dependent. We see how things proceed, how severe are the consequences of the crisis, which clearly are pretty severe in our country. But I unfortunately think that the expectations of all of us for the whole euro area are not really favorable. But then, if needed, there will be more action and more words, perhaps clearer and better understood words. But this means that for the time being, the package is pretty substantial. It is, we can front load, we can concentrate on particular jurisdictions according to the circumstances for a temporary time, but clearly fighting the risks that the widening of spreads, for example, makes the transmission of the processes more difficult for certain countries.
But, Governor, how quickly could this front load come? I mean, if you have to take action, could it come as early as today? We're trying to get a sense of actually how quick and how ready the ECB wants to act, if necessary.
Well, first of all, the program is just been decided. It will be in place in the coming days. We have already the older program in action, and we may and are modulating our purchases as markets develop. But in the next following days, we will clearly, the ECB will put in place the purchases that are consistent with these 120 billion increase in the program for this year. Now, nothing can be excluded for the future. We'll see, and it has to do with the instruments, that we may somehow address, as well as the rates that are under our own responsibility.
So Christine Lagarde was speaking about using flexibility of the QE program. Can you give us specifics of how this could be used, again, to address the current tensions in Italian bonds?
Well, we may speak about Italian bonds, but actually we have to speak about all the bonds that are going to be purchased with this program, not limited to the Italian ones. Obviously, if we see spreads increasing because there are fears in the market, because there is uncertainty about the effects of the virus and so on, clearly these widening will be contrasted. Is that in the BTPs or it is that in the bonus in any jurisdiction? It has to be clear that again, monetary policy has its own responsibilities. It is not the only policy that has to be in place. As a matter of fact, is a complement to the decisions, very important decisions that have been taken on the fiscal front in this country, will be taken together in the European Union, and will have to be as much as bold and coordinated, ambitious and coordinated as we wrote in our statement and as we discussed yesterday. But there is no question that if there are movements in the spreads caused by fears about the effects of the coronavirus, then this will make more difficult our provision of liquidity and the impulses that we are giving to the economy to respond on the turbulence on financial markets, and therefore there will be targeting and focusing on the jurisdictions where this will take place.
Governor, can the ECB increase the size of QE further, and was this actually discussed already?
Yeah. It has been discussed, of course. It is. We discuss a lot of things. I mean, the details are obviously to be defined, but even the amount of this APP program, I think, is different than what was expected, much larger. And if there was a disappointment as far as interest rates are concerned, the fact that we didn't go further down on the deposit facility rate, this has to be understood with respect to an evaluation that many of us, some of us, but many of us had about the relative efficacy, relative effects that the APP may have vis-à-vis a further reduction of the DFR, which is already negative by 0.5%. And that, again, is not to be excluded if necessary. We discussed even that, and for the time being, there is no need. We need to act very quickly. We can purchase bonds very quickly if needed. We can provide liquidity, very favorable conditions if needed now.
Governor, in the short amount of time we have left, given what you've said, given the clarification, are you expecting BTPs to settle down?
I suppose, yes. I think there is no reason for these spreads to be so wide, no reason at all. The response of the Italian government has been correct, timely. It is a crisis that needed the containment measures that were taken. It is a crisis that may have a similar pattern in other countries, and also I expect other countries to act in that way. Monetary policy, central bank decisions are there to accompany the substantial decisions that will be taken on the fiscal front. And I would add also on the supervisory front.